So in this lesson, we're looking at your key partnerships. That is, who are the companies, the individuals, the groups, the communities that are your key partners, and also who are your key suppliers. Yeah, who are the critical pieces in your supply chain that are going to make it all work. So a couple of examples to get you started. If you think about Apple, yeah, who are its key partners? Well, the obvious ones are Foxconn, who does the assembly of a lot of all the iPhones in its huge factories in Taiwan and China, and also Samsung, who produces a lot of the critical components, including the OLED screens for the iPhone. So Apple needs to basically make sure that they keep those on site. Other companies have very different supply chains, very different key partners. So you need to ask, what are the key resources that you're getting from your key partners? And generally there is this link between key resources and key partners, or key activities and key partners. You don't have to do all your activities yourself. You don't have to own all your resources yourself. You can get them from other people. If you're getting them from other people, you include them in this section in key partners. So for example, I think it was Tumblr or one of the other photo sharing sites, they used to have a key partner at Amazon, and because they did all the hosting on Amazon AWS, once they got to a certain point, they then decided that was a key resource that they needed to have in-house. And so they brought the whole of the hosting and management of the tech stack in-house, and then Amazon then ceased to be a partner, a key partner for them. Very much you need to be looking and making this decision. So, well, do I rent or do I make? Can I buy an activity or a key resource from somebody outside more cheaply than I can do it myself? So for example, one of my customers builds apps for residential associations. Yeah, they have made the decision that it's cheaper to go to somebody who specializes in building apps, bang, and he then delivers them a good but not very customized solution, rather than trying to build a customized solution themselves. So this is an important decision that you need to make, and it helps you reduce the amount of capital that you have to put into a business. I was talking to somebody the other day, and Malcolm was saying that, okay, he needs to spend 500,000 developing the app. Okay, his app in that case is based on somebody doing some work pro bono for him, as he's a non-profit. But he also needs to say, okay, is there a way that I can get an app that does an equivalent thing where I don't have to invest all the capital? And this is often where key partners can come in. They may have something that you can use as a platform that then allows you to leverage off somebody else's resources or activity. What are the forms that a key partnership can take? Well, the first one is a strategic alliance between non-competitors. This is where two companies agree to work together to achieve some sort of common aim. A second approach is co-opetition, where you've got competitors working in a non-competitive way on a particular project. So, for example, in the car industry, often now you'll find companies grouping together to work to deliver either chassis platforms or new electric motors or autonomous driving systems, because the cost of actually developing something themselves is too large and too risky for them to do themselves. But when you can do it together with a group of competitors and satisfy the competition authorities that you're not acting as a cartel, then you can deliver something a lot more effective. And a third of our approach is to create a joint venture to do new business together. So a good example of this is when, say, an oil major, I'm thinking of BP, went into Russia and it formed a joint venture with Russian oil companies. BP brought in technological know-how, exploration know-how. The Russian company brought in sort of the asset ownership and the ability to supply manpower and resources to the project. And then that joint venture worked successfully for 6 or 7 years producing oil. And what you're looking for in a joint venture is two companies coming together with different skill sets or resources that are able to deliver something that is greater than the sum of the parts. And then finally, the final type of key partnership relationship is the buyer-supplier relationship. And this can be absolutely sort of critical in ensuring that you're able to deliver your value proposition. It's most commonly seen in industrial supply chains, where you will have a primary and a secondary supplier for your goods, and you're going in and you're making sure that your supplier delivers the quality, that they meet the specifications that you require from them, yeah, and they start tooling their factory up to meet your demand. So Foxconn, for example, has its factories, some of its factories entirely dedicated to producing iPhones. It opens new factories based on demands, it understands what Apple wants, and everything is dedicated. And unwinding that relationship would take several years because both parties have invested a great deal. Similarly, Nike and other branded shoewear companies invest a lot of time in going into their supplier companies and the factories, making sure that everything is done appropriately, or finding out that it isn't, and investing to make sure that it does, the supply chain does work according to the ethical principles. So why do we create partnerships with other people? Why don't we do it ourselves? Why don't we go alone? Simply, I mean, the simplest answer is, in many ways, you can do more with less capital if you have partners. Yeah. So the first big or detailed reason is that you can get somebody else's economies of scale. So if, for example, I want to set up a company making shoes, I got fundamentally two choices. Yeah. Start with, I'm going to be a pretty small company. So I've got enough capital to make a factory, or set up a factory that makes, say, 50,000 pairs a month. However, I could go to a guy just across the road, and all he does is he makes shoes for other people. He doesn't sell them to the market, and he makes 5 million shoes a month. Because of the economies of scale that he's able to deliver, he can sell me shoes 30%, 40%, 50% cheaper than I would be able to make them myself, and I don't have to invest my capital to set up the factory. I don't have to use my management time to set up the factory. It's a win-win for both of us. The second reason is the reduction of risk and uncertainty. Certainly, it's true that when you're doing a startup, there is an awful lot that you don't know. I mean, market research takes you so far, but it's when the rubber hits the road and you find out what reality is really like that you start to understand your business. So when you can have a key partner who is already in the market, that can really help you to reduce the risks that you're facing. So this is one of the reasons why, say, franchises work so well, because a new franchisee goes, sets up the business, and he's already been given a set of principles, systems, structures, processes that work, and they work in lots of different places. So he knows that if he follows this, with a few other variables that he can then sort of control, he's going to have a good business. And that significantly reduces his risk and significantly reduces the failure rate that he's likely to expect. And then the final reason to have a partnership is that you're able to access particular resources or skills. So, for example, with the growth in lithium-ion batteries and the demand for electric vehicles, lithium mines have suddenly become very, very valuable. So there's often a good reason for somebody like Tesla to actually either partner up with lithium mines to ensure that it's going to be able to get a good flow of lithium going into its battery manufacturing facilities, because if it's at the mercy of, say, market prices and there's a crunch, then suddenly its economics start becoming a little bit unfavourable. And there are many other reasons or ways that you can actually access other resources out there. And very much this is one of the biggest areas that I think entrepreneurs have a lot of flexibility in. It's looking at your competitors, it's saying, okay, where do they get their resources? And then saying, okay, can I get better resources from somewhere else? If I build it in-house, they're building it in-house. Is there a way that I can get it better, cheaper, faster, more effective from somebody else that then gets me on a par with them, and then lets me spend the time I've freed up from not having to manage that on finding or developing a much stronger competitive advantage. And this is one of the most important things about key partnerships. They let you leverage, they let you grow faster and more effectively than if you had to buy and make everything yourself. So what to do next? Sit down again with the business model canvas and sketch out 4 to 5 key partnerships that you think would be really important. And the best way to do this is to look at your key activities and look at your key resources and say, okay, what can I buy from somebody else that is going to make me faster, better, more effective, that is going to let me deliver more value to my customers? Yeah, if you haven't got any key partners, then there's a risk that your business model isn't innovative enough, and you're going to be facing difficulties as you try to implement it. On the other hand, if you've gone through the process of looking at each of your key activities, your key resources, and you can't see any options, then that's also fine. What works for you? Bear in mind though, partnerships let you leverage and do more faster. So any questions, do ask them down in the comments or send me an email.